and Education by Lynn Barber. This continues the piece that we have looked at earlier. And here she's a lot happier. She's heading off to her secondary education at Lady Eleanor Hollis School. At Lady Eleanor Hollis School, for the first time, I was mixing with girls from quite wealthy backgrounds. Some of them even had their own ponies. I would listen, ears flapping, to their boastful conversations about Daddy's new Jaguar or Mummy's new refrigerator. I could see there was no way I could win in the snobbery stakes. We didn't have a car, let alone a paddock, so I didn't bother lying, but just told everyone I was a pauper and the cleverest girl in the school, which I probably was. Apparently Lady Eleanor Hollis is a highly academic school nowadays, but it certainly wasn't then. And actually, it paid off. So from having been quite an irritating person at primary school with no friends, and starting off thinking everybody was ninnies, and then hating the other girl who got the gold star every week, we're now looking at somebody who actually has the intelligence to decide she's just going to be who she's going to be, and everyone else is going to have to accept that. The word pauper is, of course, a bit of a joke. It means an extremely poor person, and she wasn't that. You've seen her house, but she certainly doesn't have a pony, so she's decided she's going to go the other way. Now, this is set in the 1960s. We wouldn't really talk about refrigerator now. These are fridges, and it's pretty normal to have a fridge. You don't have to be particularly rich, but it was a big deal in the 1960s. The pony owners found it quite amusing to know me. I was a novelty in their world, and they were very generous. They would always lend me clothes for parties and hand over any book tokens they were given for Christmas on the grounds that they had no conceivable use for them, and I did. The LEH girls liked having a pauper in their midst, and I liked having friends for the first time in my life. It was a great day for me when we moved up to the main school and 3 girls competed to sit next to me in class. Probably they just hoped to crib my schoolwork, but I basked in my first taste of popularity. Right the way through this, she's making fun of herself for having been so stuck up in primary school, for having told this ridiculous story about being a pauper, but she's quite amused about how it's all turned out and people accept her for who she is. Word crib, again, quite an old-fashioned word meaning to copy. You probably worked that out. And I've given you a little picture of a book token here. Instead of an Amazon voucher or something like that, quite often responsible relatives would give you book tokens for Christmas because they didn't know what to get you and they didn't just want to give you money. A book token showed that they were giving you books. Now, if you loved books and reading like me, that was great. But for a lot of people, it wasn't the best present that they could possibly have wanted. The only thing wrong with LEH from my point of view was that it was surrounded by miles of playing fields and you had to play games. Worst of all, you had to play lacrosse, which relied on the daft notion that it was possible to run while holding a ball in a sort of primitive snowshoe above your head, while other girls hit you with their snowshoes and tried to trip you up. Obviously, it was dangerous folly even to attempt it. Here again, we've got humour, we've got exaggeration. Most sports and games can be made to look ridiculous if you start to write down what you've got to do. So it's an easy win, this. She's obviously someone who hated PE, which many people do, many people don't. You may identify with her, you may not. The point is, it is really funny the way she describes it. I've given you a little picture of what lacrosse looks like. It's quite an unusual sport, so it's not something that you come across before, mostly played by girls in the south of England, although I think it's big for men in America. Eventually, I got my parents to write a note saying I had weak ankles and should not play games, which would have been fine, except that I then had to go to remedial podiatry sessions and learn to pick up pencils with my toes. Then the podiatrist said I should take up ice skating to strengthen my weak ankles and actually got me a free pass to Saturday sessions at Richmond Ice Rink. God, I thought lacrosse was scary. Ice skating was terrifying. In theory, there was a quiet place in the middle of the rink where you could practice your figures, but you had to get to it through the stampeding pack of speed skaters. I once saw someone's finger sliced off when he fell over in the pack, and a ring of blood went right round the rink before the stewards could get the speed skaters to stop. So earlier she had learned that by being stubborn you could get out of things you didn't want to do, like eat stew and have soup and roast potatoes instead. This time it's not worked out quite so well for her.